So it's going to happen very fast because the difference between the states and the federal government is the vast majority of them are part-time. So they meet for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and then it's over. And sometimes they only meet once every other year for a general session. So in those types of states, you're going to see this either sink or swim. It's going to happen or it's not going to happen. And it's not like Congress where they can wait a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to even get a hearing. I tell a lot of people, I never say this. I never say I'm 100% confident or I'm nearly guaranteed that it's going to happen, because the policy process, as I mentioned before, is wrought with potential landmines. However, there is one state that we are working with. There's a task force of lawmakers that get together and they say, okay, let's get together, let's pregame, let's figure out what we want to do, and we'll vote in this task force on what bills we want to put forward. Well, every single bill that has ever gone through that task force has been approved by that task force has passed into law, and our strategic Bitcoin reserve legislation just passed out of that task force. So what are the odds over all the years that we're the only bill that doesn't pass into law?
So Dennis Porter, they're talking about the strategic Bitcoin reserves coming from the state level. And as you can see right here, he believes up to 20 Bitcoin strategic reserves will be introduced at the state level. And as you saw in that clip, he's saying that we already have 1 or 2 that are already going to be passed into law due to some task force. So that's very, very bullish. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. Do you think these states are going to start passing these bills into law and actually accumulating Bitcoin on their balance sheet? Let me know what you guys think about that. Well, welcome back to the channel. This is Aaron from the Bitcoin Bros. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the volatility of MicroStrategy, getting into some other Bitcoin news, MicroStrategy news, and I have a clip at the end of Saylor. Highly recommend you guys check this one out all the way to the end. And you can see here, Bhutan is the first country to adopt a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So one of their cities just adopt Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. This is one of the first countries that we've seen do this. And right now, Bhutan owns over 13,000 BTC. They have been mining Bitcoin for years. This is a South Asian country, and you can see they have been stacking Bitcoin. They have over 13,000 BTC. This is definitely going to help the country in the future. But to get into MicroStrategy a bit here, you can see at the close yesterday, we were at 341, down 9%. Bitcoin is currently sitting at around 95,153, down a little bit from the close yesterday. So MicroStrategy will probably open down here even more. And this is just straight volatility, guys. We can see MicroStrategy was at 383 on January 6th. Now we're all the way down to 341. We probably will open even lower than that. And this is actually a good thing for MicroStrategy. And there's a clip at the end about volatility from Michael Saylor, and he explains why volatility is so important for MicroStrategy, not just volatility to the upside, but also to the downside, and that's what we're seeing right now. And as I showed you guys in some of our previous videos, MicroStrategy's had multiple 50% drops just over the past year. In 2024, had 2 50% drops, a 40% drop, and a 30% drop, and it still is one of the best performing stocks for the entire year. So if the volatility scares you, MicroStrategy may not be the stock for you. And this is Jeff Park weighing in. He's saying volatility is the most consistent feature of crypto because volatility is pro-economic freedom. To oppose volatility is to reject the dispersion of outcomes, the richness of liquid markets, and the journey of price discovery. Being anti-volatility is fundamentally socialist. Volatility is that of the true market, and the true market is always changing up and down. And then to talk a little bit more about Bitcoin here, this is Peter Schiff. He says, once it becomes obvious the U.S. government won't be buying Bitcoin, those who bought hoping to front run that buying will sell. Saylor will be forced to accelerate his leveraged Bitcoin purchases to prevent a crash. But this will only delay the crash until MicroStrategy crashes first. So Peter Schiff has been tweeting about a Bitcoin crash probably for 15 years now, and it has not happened. Every time Bitcoin has crashed, it has came back and hit a new all-time high. And I do agree with Peter here. This is the reason why I'm sharing this post. If Trump comes out and says, hey, we're not going to be buying Bitcoin, we're not going to be making the Bitcoin strategic reserve for the United States, that's going to make the price of Bitcoin go down. That is a risk that we are taking right now. And personally, I don't think Trump is going to come out and say that, but I think if that happens, the price of Bitcoin will go down. I don't think it crashes and never comes back, but we could definitely see BTC sell off some. But I do think Peter will continue to be wrong about his Bitcoin and MicroStrategy predictions. And then look at some charts here. Looking at the 1 month RSI, you can see every time Bitcoin has peaked out over the past cycles, the 1 month RSI has hit levels a lot higher than what we're seeing right now. So typically Bitcoin would have to go upwards of between $80 and $100 in this RSI, being very overbought before having a correction. And you can see that's happened throughout every bull run that we've had for BTC. And there's a trend line here where Bitcoin could hit its head up here. And if it does hit its head up here, that may be where you want to start thinking about is the top end. But right now, it doesn't look like we're anywhere close to those levels. And then the hourly RSI drops to its most oversold level since Bitcoin hit $60,000. You can see Bitcoin is very oversold right now on the short time frame RSI. This could be a potential indicator to buy the dip, buy some cheap sets as it's back below $100,000. And then to look at the Pi cycle top indicator, every time this has been hit in the past, it has marked a top for BTC. And it looks like we're nowhere close to these lines even merging or crossing over. So the Pi cycle top indicator is not showing a top in for BTC. And talk a little bit more about the volatility of Bitcoin. You can see during bull runs, Bitcoin drops multiple times throughout the year, 30% moves, 40% moves to the downside. Even over the past couple of years, we've seen 20% moves to the downside. And one thing I want to talk about here is when Trump got in office back here in January, we had a 33% drop in January, very similar to where we're at right now. This is with a Trump presidency. It dropped 33%, but then you saw where it went after that. It moved up 9,900%. So you can see that could potentially what's playing out now. Maybe a big correction to a more sustainable market after that. And then yesterday, on Tuesday, BlackRock bought $600 million of BTC. Really good to see there. The ETF, IBIT still buying Bitcoin. Most of the other Bitcoin ETFs actually sold off, but IBIT did have a huge buying day. So now I want to get into this clip from Saylor talking about why volatility is so important for MicroStrategy. Highly recommend you guys watch this one to the end. Let's go ahead and check out the clip and leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. Like and subscribe for more content. I'm out. Let's go ahead and play the clip here.
Get to 2024, and then we discovered the value of volatility. I mean, really understand it. Because in January of 2024, Bitcoin isn't an asset class. And the second week, the SEC approves those ETFs. And then you start having the snide comments like, well, now we don't need MicroStrategy anymore. They're like just a proxy. They're like a clumsy ETF substitute. We'll just put our money into the ETFs. But what happened at the same time was the halving was coming, and all of the investors, the vol traders, went through a secular rotation, and they started selling the Bitcoin mining stocks and looking for something else to trade. So if you track the liquidity in the options market and in the equity market, there was a major shift in Q1 and early Q2 where a lot of the volatility in the options traders and equity traders, they basically hopped off a dozen Bitcoin mining companies onto MicroStrategy because the Bitcoin miners were going to the halving where their revenues get cut in half. So when that happened, our options interest exploded and we became the #1 options market. When the SEC approved the ETFs, they didn't approve options. Okay, so today our options market is like $95 billion. Our options market is the same size as our market cap. And then we discovered that the real strategic opportunity we had was we can construct a balance sheet of permanent capital with leverage. And when you take Bitcoin and make it 100% of your stock, you're going to trade probably, if Bitcoin is trading with a 60 vol, you're going to trade with a 75 vol just because of the uncertainty of what the management team is going to do. Like I have the option to sell equity or not sell equity, or we might do something or not do something. I have the option to do debt or not do debt. That option is going to move you from 60 vol to 70 or 80 vol. Then if you actually execute the option by selling equity at a premium or by issuing convertible bonds, you move to 90 or 100 vol. So all of a sudden we had an equity trading with 100. I think today it's like 120 vol. Basically double Bitcoin equity. And now here's the big idea, right? The S&P is 15 ARR, 15 vol. Bitcoin is 60 ARR, 60 vol. It has been that way for 4 years. We take a company with permanent capital and we create something which is 100 or 120 vol, 100 to 120 ARR. Okay, now that attracts all the options traders, all the arbitrageurs, all the Bitcoin maximalists. It becomes hot money. You know, the call rate, if you hold a dollar bill for 30 days, you're getting SOFR at 30, you're getting 480 basis points or something like that. If you hold $1 million worth of the S&P index for 30 days, you can get like 15% interest by selling the 30-day calls at the market. If you hold Bitcoin, IBIT, for 30 days, you couldn't sell the options until just recently, but now you can sell them and generate about 100% interest. If you sell the MicroStrategy call option at the market, it's 220% interest rate. Okay, just to hold the share. And so all of a sudden, what we've done is we've created a levered flywheel on top of a product which is already 4x as volatile and 4x as performant as the S&P. The result is our liquidity explodes, our options interest explode, and we do a convert bond in Q1. A week later, we do another convert bond. That's the first time in history anybody ever did 2 convert bonds back to back, 2 consecutive weeks. Then we do another one in Q2. Then we do another one in Q3. Then we do $1 billion of ATM in Q3. And then we start to get into a groove and we realize that at the end of the day, you know, the market's going to rally around some leader, and you're either going to lead in a decisive way, or you're going to sneak around and apologetically be opportunistic, or you're going to hide and wait. And so we just decided we're going to lead. I mean, John D. Rockefeller decided to roll up the entire petrochemical industry, and he bought out all of his competitors, all of his customers, all of his vendors. And first he did it for cash, and they would say, okay, well, pay me this. He'd go to the bank, he'd borrow the money, and he'd give him the cash. And at some point, people in the industry said, you know, Standard Oil stock is worth more money than the cash. And he just started issuing the stock. And Henry Flagler, of course, built Florida with Standard Oil stock. And so there's this point in the market where the market decides it trusts you and it wants to rally behind you. And we got to the point in October 30th, and we just said, look, we're going to put the question to our shareholders. Do you want us to basically build this business or not? And after 40 consecutive Bitcoin purchases, after laying the foundation of a Bitcoin, you know, development company, after actually rolling out the KPI of BTC yield, which is, we just sold $1 billion of equity. It was backed by 350 million in Bitcoin. We bought back the $1 billion in Bitcoin. We captured 650 million in the arbitrage. That works out to 4%. That 4% is like a Bitcoin dividend to the shareholders, but we're going to keep it on the balance sheet, roll it forward, and reinvest it. Once we constructed that model, we just said, look, we're going to issue $21 billion of equity, and we're going to issue $21 billion of fixed income, whether it's convertible bonds or preferred shares or corporate bonds. And we're going to do the fixed income to stay levered. We're going to do the equity when it's at a massive premium to the underlying assets to capture the yield and to de-lever. If you want to get behind us on that, that's the plan. We put it out there. The next day, stock trades up. We outperform every Magnificent Seven company. We outperform Bitcoin. We outperform every Bitcoin company. Yeah. So the shareholders spoke. I mean, by the way, it's not a surprise to me. I was 95% certain they would like it because I meet with them and they were like, this is the most brilliant thing ever. Yeah, just keep doing this. So after that, you know, we had a good week, and then November 5th came. And there's a red sweep, and all of a sudden you have a pro-Bitcoin White House, a pro-Bitcoin Senate, a pro-Bitcoin Congress, pro-Bitcoin cabinet. Bitcoin rages from 68,000 and 99,000. The short of it is we raised $10 billion in 4 years after our initial announcement, and that's like progressively work and learning. You know, we're learning, and the market's learning to trust us, right? We're building a relationship. My relationship's not just with my equity investors, it's with the convertible bond investors. You know, you meet with a convertible bond investor, say, I saw you last quarter. I saw you, you know, you yelled at me for this and this. I fixed this. I'll do this. We're partners together. I promise you I will do this. I'm not going to mess with your opportunity. I'm not going to hedge it. I'm not going to steal your trading opportunity. I will do this and this and this. The guy goes, well, and I'm looking forward to this future. The guy goes, thank you for your candor. $500 million order. 50. Like, if you have trust and people understand you, they'll give you your money. So what happened next is we raised $13.5 billion in 4 weeks. And if you look at my tweet, my tweet this morning is basically, we generated about a $9 billion plus gain for our shareholders in those 4 weeks. We're making hundreds of millions of dollars a day. It's tricky for conventional investors to understand it because you're not capturing shareholder value creation via GAAP accounting because for 2 reasons. One, Bitcoin's indefinite and intangible, but 2, in the history of 50 years of the capital markets, everybody's been on the US dollar standard, which is 0 vol, 0 ARR against the dollar. And this is the Bitcoin standard, 60 vol, 60 ARR against the dollar. We don't have the math, the accounting to keep up with that in the traditional system. And that's why we have to put forward things like a BTC yield, a BTC spread, a BTC gain. And those that understand BTC, they get it and they're long and they love it. And those that don't understand BTC or don't understand this or just aren't really interested in putting in the work, they just think it's sham crazy and they're just going to short it or they're just going to whatever. So that's where we are today, is from desperation to opportunistic to strategic to identity. At this point, we're a Bitcoin treasury company. I'm on a mission. My mission is I'd like to see the entire world recapitalize on Bitcoin, every company, every family, every individual, every government. I think it's an economic protocol for prosperity. I think it's as important as English or fire or electricity or steel. I just think it's good technology. It's a good idea. We're reaching the fun stage. The next 4 years, I think, are kind of fun. We get to do a lot of interesting things to help people.